What is the good word? And welcome to another Cherry Live Deep Dive. Welcome to the second look at a real deep understanding of the product that's currently on everybody's lips, in everybody's hands. Everyone's busting it. It's WWE Prizm. And as the expert, if you will, here at Cherry on all things wrestling, I thought I would use a bit of this time to give a further look at some of the wrestlers you are looking through that are coming through as rookies. And so I've kind of divided them up into these 5 sort of categories, if you will, of the rookies who you're going to be looking for, who you're going to want to collect. Some you want to sit on. And now, of course, I'm not going to piss in your pocket. The wrestling isn't exactly athletic ability. Of course, athletic ability plays into it, but your ability to speak, your ability to politic, and your ability to connect with fans in other ways plays a big part in your success. You know, the best athlete won't be the best wrestler. The best talker won't be the best wrestler. That's why I'm behind a desk, not in the middle of a WWE ring. But let's have a look at exactly who we're looking for in the top tier. Now, Bronbreaker is the number one, I would say. He's very popular. He's the son of Rick Steiner. He's the nephew of Scott Steiner. He's an NXT champion. He talks like an absolute madman, which is a good thing. He wrestles like a classic powerhouse, like his dad, like his uncle. He's the current NXT champion, which means that the biggest thing is they believe in him. The WWE has put a lot of faith in him. He currently is the big thing in the NXT 2.0. He's the biggest thing in the developmental brand. They believe in him. They think he's going to be huge. He's being built for the future. If WWE cards achieve this, if they ascend to being such a huge part of the collecting world, then he's the next guy. This is his rookie. Gable Stevenson, he's in the top tier, but he's also someone I would consider established. He has a following outside of wrestling already. He is an Olympic gold medalist. He's an NCAA champion a million times. He is as legit as it possibly gets. We don't know what he talks like very much yet, but he might not need to. You know, chuck him with a mouthpiece. He's a Brock Lesnar who can talk for what it's worth, but he's a big deal, especially in America. He won a gold medal for America. And that hype has transcended into his WWE standing, where they used a draft pick on him. Of course, the draft picks are all predetermined. But he was chosen to represent the Royal brand early doors. They believe in him enough that he is going to be super popular. Had a feature at WrestleMania. He looks good. He's got a unique look. Like, he's cool. He's tattoos. They're going to believe in him. He's another one that they've obviously put faith in. You know, right now he's training, and he is currently, potential number one guy. And another important thing is, by him being Gable Stevenson being taken out of NXT 2.0, he doesn't have that collision course with Bronbreaker. You can keep these two separate for as long as you possibly want. And they've both been built up. And so again, he doesn't need to be an undefeated amateur wrestler, but he is. That doesn't have a role in WWE, but it is important. It provides legitimacy. It provides the legitimacy that Kurt Angle had. It provides the legitimacy that Brock Lesnar had, and the legitimacy that Bobby Lashley had. And those guys are all extremely well off right now in wrestling. And then the third one was actually someone I didn't predict being so popular, which is Cora Jade. She is probably somebody who, if you don't follow wrestling that much, wouldn't really know about. She is young. Her aesthetic is awesome. She's like a cool alternative skater girl. She's obviously attractive, and she's a risk taker. Her cards are up there with the rest of those guys at the moment. Like people are buying her up in pick your wrestler case breaks sort of thing. She's going fast, and her cards are selling extremely well. She reminds me of an AJ Lee, who was super popular. Her career obviously ended very early. And AJ Lee obviously took some inspiration from very early doors Lita. The thing is, she's absolutely incredible. She's super cool, easy to get behind. And obviously, I think there's going to be a big, not so much divide, but there are going to be wrestling fans who buy wrestling cards of wrestlers, and there's going to be people who are investing in cards of superstars. I think Cora Jade falls into the third one, and so she's someone who wrestling fans are going to love, and that's why she's so popular. The NXT tier, the next tier, are 3 guys at the moment who I think are, just shy of being like a transcendental star, and it's going to go into their booking, it's going to go into how Vince feels on the day. But these are, first of all, it's Carmelo Hayes. He's not big, he's a small wrestler, but he's super flashy. He's a champ, so they obviously like him enough to chuck a title on him, and he's charismatic. Think Ricochet with a bit of edge, a bit of swag, a bit of personality, which is one thing that they say Ricochet is missing. Think Matt Sydal, Evan Bourne, if you will, with a bit more edge, with a bit cool. He's a high flyer, striker, and he's just the sort of guy who you could see falling into a title reign eventually, a major title reign, and that everyone gets behind. Solo Sikoa is the next one I want to talk about. He is a part of the Anoa'i dynasty of wrestling, if you will. That includes The Rock. It includes Roman Reigns. It includes the Usos. He's very much an Uso. It includes some of the best Samoan wrestlers of all time. And he's a part of that. He's the next one. He's the one who's coming through, learning the trade now. He's got a great look, and his gimmick at the moment is like a street fighter, and so his offense looks legit. And he is someone who I would say, don't sell him cheap because he's not cheap now. There's this story to play out with a whole bunch of the Anoa'i family, the Samoan dynasty in wrestling, and he's going to be a part of that in some way. The third one is a guy named Haaland. He was touted initially coming in as the next Brock Lesnar. And so being the next Brock Lesnar is obviously a huge call. And that's not just something that, because he's a big, blonde-haired, pale monster, and that is one thing we will talk about. But he is legit. He's got a football background. I believe he's got an amateur wrestling background. I could be corrected on that one. But he's going to be somebody who is definitely going to relish in his time in NXT, learning everything, learning how to wrestle. And I think that he's someone who, again, it will be a big monster. Everyone's going to love him. And again, is he the next Brock Lesnar? We don't know. But he is, I would say, someone who the anticipation for is on that next tier. The next lot of superstars, wrestlers, sports entertainers, if you will, are going to be people I'm talking about that have either established themselves in professional wrestling or established themselves in other areas of sports. And so Blair Davenport, formerly known as Bea Priestley, she has wrestled everywhere. She, from Australia to Japan to America to the UK, she has been all over the world. And so I think some of these athletes who have already wrestled major time on the independent circuit, it's worth holding on to them. It's worth having a look at them and being like, maybe they'll need a solid hand who has a heap of experience in the future. Maybe they need that to run the division. Maybe the UK fans will get behind them. And so on that note as well, Amelia McKenzie, formerly known as Millie McKenzie, she has been literally wrestling since before she was 18, all over the place. She's young. She's got an amateur-ish style background, like, you know, the UK World of Sports style wrestling background. She's, again, she has so much time right now to evolve. And right now she's in the UK. They have been calling wrestlers over the entire time, so she could be upgraded at any point. Brought over to NXT, brought over to the main roster. Of course, again, this is all depending on their booking, but these are reasons why they may be booked better. The third one is someone who is currently on the show and hasn't done a lot at the moment. She's got her own talk show on NXT 2.0, but it's Lash Legend. She's a former WNBA player, and just kind of wanted to throw in because anyone who has any sort of legitimate background that is in sport, that is in, you know, a whole bunch of other sort of realms, they're going to have an advantage over, I don't want to say fitness models, but over other people who haven't had an athletic background and are getting into wrestling. So she just wanted to keep an eye on. I wouldn't go and buy her up now, but if you do pick one up, maybe don't sell it for $5 and just hold on to it. This is, I've broken this into female and male wrestlers. These are people who I think have the opportunity or the potential to break out from the pack. And my number one, and this is one that, you know, harkens back to Trish Stratus, harkens even back to Sunny, is Tiffany Stratton. She's charismatic. Her gimmick of being like a spoiled girl is a lot of fun, lends itself to having a whole bunch of muscle, if you will. She's obviously attractive, and her finisher is super unique. Sort of finishes she can hit on anyone, which is a big thing to acknowledge. But Tiffany Stratton, I think, just has a ton of potential. If you ask me to pick someone from this NXT 2.0 that I think will blow up bigger than what maybe is foreseen, it's Tiffany Stratton. Another one I really like is Ivy Nile. Her style is a bit more grounded in legitimacy. She's done powerlifting. She looks great. And again, her finisher is and I think you're seeing this a lot, is a new take on an old finisher. Tiffany Stratton has the spinning Vader Bomb, which is just a turnbuckle move. And Ivy Niles is a modified guillotine. And so she's super charismatic. She, again, is so legit that she doesn't need to speak much. And just think she's super cool. Another one I really like is Persia Pirotta. I would include Indy Hartwell on here if she was a rookie, but Persia Pirotta for me is third. She's strong. She has the size advantage compared to a lot of the other girls. She's Australian, which is big for people here. If she does get a bit of attention, Australians will embrace Australians quicker, like Americans embrace Americans quicker. And so a lot of Australians who are into wrestling, and especially independent wrestling, will remember her wrestling as Steph DeLanda and Facebrook here in Australia. And so she's different. She's taller. She's got a bit more muscle. She is very unique. And so I think that a lot of that will work for her. She'll stand out. And I've kept it very Australian. Grayson Waller wrestled in Australia as Matty Wahlberg. He was actually on a series of Survivor, and he ran his mouth on that. He can run his mouth in wrestling as well. He's a great talker. He's super athletic, and they're already putting him in big spots. He's already doing a whole bunch of stuff that they're not going to give to wrestlers who aren't good. He wrestled AJ Styles. He did the big ladder jump. He nearly broke his damn arm doing it, but he did it. Duke Hudson is another one who wrestled in Australia. He wrestled as Elliot Sexton. He's tall and he's got a great look. He's huge. And so that goes a long way in terms of what the wrestling head honchos will embrace. He's a big man. He's strong. He looks good. He's got a punchable face. He's an asshole. Like, all this sort of thing kind of blends together to be a dude whose gimmick will be talk shit, backs it up. But you hate it. You hate his guts. And then another one that I put on is Odyssey Jones. I don't think that like he's currently as primed for success as some of these other guys, but he's deceptively quick. He's got a cool name. He's a powerhouse. And I've written there, seems like a great guy. By that I mean people are going to want to get behind him. He seems fun. He's exciting. He's good to watch. You want him to succeed. And eventually that works. That plays into it. Kofi Kingston, Daniel Bryan, Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit the years before, they were all fan favorites, underappreciated, not the big muscle guys with different looks who have had great success, and those four in particular are WrestleMania level. But there's no reason that Odyssey Jones can't be a massive star with a whole bunch of fans behind him. The final one is, of course, the wrestlers, two wrestlers who I kind of didn't want to put into any of the other ones, but I think were very much worth mentioning. Wendy Chu, her gimmick is narcolepsy. She is literally falls asleep places. She wrestles in a onesie. I don't know if people seem to be really into her in terms of the wrestling world. I don't know how far it goes. It's just one of those things. She was worth mentioning. She is of Asian descent, and there hasn't been a whole bunch of superstars from that part of the world who have reached world title status, but it's happening. The way it's been embraced all over the world, wrestling in particular, combat sports in general, means that stars who are representing people who need to be represented, people we haven't seen representation of in ways that isn't like rough, like if we're being honest with each other. If you're talking like stereotypes, which we'll get into in a little bit. But the Wendy Chu, I think she's amazing in the ring. She looks good. I just don't know how this sleep narcolepsy thing goes. People like her. Orange Cassidy right now is one of the most popular wrestlers in the world with an adjacent gimmick. It's just that he's lazy, not sleepy. I think she can be great. Maybe, and the reason I want to focus on these two is maybe it's not the wrestler right now. Maybe she's not Wendy Chu sleepy. Maybe in like 2 years' time, she's Wendy Chu paying homage to her background. Maybe she's Wendy Chu, knockout artist. Maybe she's Wendy Chu, professional speaker. Like, what you kind of have to remember is a lot of these rookies right now are in what's considered developmental. They will go through changes. We saw Pete Dunne, who has been a wrestler for the past, I want to say almost 10 years, I assume. He went through a change literally after being established on another TV show on NXT, the feeder to the WWE, and completely changed. So a lot of these wrestlers will completely change. We might not be talking about Bronbreaker next week. He might be Bron Steiner. He might finally take his dad's name. So there is that to take into consideration in both a positive and a negative way. Wrestlers can be repackaged poorly, and they can be repackaged positively. And so remember, I made a joke earlier, Undertaker's first gimmick was just big, mean, tall, ginger guy. He wasn't the Undertaker when he broke in. Kane's first gimmick in the WWE was a dentist, a killer dentist. So don't write off anybody yet. anybody can improve. Of course, we are in the digital age, which means that we all know who. If back then we would have been like, wow, they're repackaging Glenn Jacobs as a monster that's Undertaker's brother. How are they ever going to forget that he was a dentist? But it worked. So the second one is Tony D'Angelo, who is very popular right now in the wrestling world because he's a played up Italian mobster stereotype. He's extremely talented in the ring. He can talk, but the one issue is that there haven't been a lot of just straight up, and I don't want to say offensive, but just straight up stereotypes that have worked, you know? It's a hard one. And so he's super popular. Right now he's getting a super push. Like, he could be world champion. He could lead a stable. He could do this, and this. But it's risky, you know, to say, hey, this is the guy who we're backing in. And again, this isn't meant for you to go out and buy, you know, 50 Tiffany Stratton rookies. This is you hit a Tiffany Stratton rookie in your break, don't let it go. Maybe hold on to it. Maybe in 10 years' time, she's headlining WrestleMania. You know, I'm sure if you went back and watched NXT when Sasha Banks was coming through, or especially Becky Lynch was coming through, she literally, you would not have said she was going to be a champion ever. Her gimmick was Irish dancing, and she moved away from that. She's still obviously Irish, but maybe Tony D'Angelo moves away from that and accentuates different parts of his character. But that's what I'm talking about. So there are wrestlers that you would back in to be successful, and these are, obviously we're talking about our top tier guys. It's going to take a lot for those guys to not be around for 10 years' time, super popular. But these sort of other superstars on the next tier, you know, and then on top of the people who are established, or even the people who I've decided are full of potential. The big thing about those guys is that they're like, there's nothing to stop them from one day being super good in wrestling. Jinder Mahal, for example, was nothing for years. He won the world title. He's dropped back down since then. But that's the way wrestling works. And so I hope you found this valuable. This, of course, isn't to say that the rest of the rookies that are in this set aren't going to blow up magically one day. Anything can happen. That's literally wrestling's greatest quote. Anything can happen in the WWF was the thing that they said for years. And so this is just more of an informational guide to be like, hey, don't let go of them too early. You know, anything can happen sort of thing. And that was just there's a top 10 to 15 wrestlers who I think can be good, at the very least good, or great, or the best ever. So thank you for joining me. We will do more of these deep dives and get excited for those. The next products released include Contenders NBA, which we'll have a look at next week, and then some awesome Star Wars product coming up. Some amazing NFL products are coming out soon with Encased N1. Stay tuned for a deep dive on those. And on top of that, of course, we build into some huge soccer products coming out in the next couple of weeks to tie in with the World Cup, to tie in with the EPL. So get excited for that. Have yourselves a great afternoon, and we'll be back, as always, live at 12 p.m. and 5 p.m. Until